Of all the songs contained within the first 7 volumes of the RWBY series, we now know which ones stand atop them all as the favorites of the fandom. Thank you to everyone who participated in this music poll, as well as each of the other music polls. It's been an interesting ride to see what songs are the favorites in each volume individually, and after taking the top 5 from each of those, in the RWBY series as a whole. All of the 35 songs that were contained within this poll did have people voting for them, and there was a nice spread of the votes across all of the different songs. But there are certainly some clear frontrunners, and certain volumes that seem to have music that is more favored among others. But without further ado, let's get into the top 10 songs in the RWBY series, volumes 1 to 7, as we will have more added very shortly with the start of Volume 8 happening tomorrow. But number 10 on this list, receiving 167 votes, is a song from Volume 2, the introduction and theme song for Team Coffee. We have the song Caffeine. This is an energetic rock song that carries various references to different sweeteners, which kind of inspires coffee's inspiration as well, with Velvet Scarlatina, Coco Adele, Fox Alistair, and Yatsuhashi Daichi all being based on various types of sweets. This is definitely a good song for their introduction, especially the hype scene that was their battle introduction at the end of Volume 2 in the episode of Breach, where they pretty much showed up and demolished a whole bunch of the Grimm. An excellent song, and I'm really happy to see this song make the list. It ranked 2nd in the Volume 2 music poll and now ranks 10th overall. But moving on to our 9th place on this list, we actually have our 1st place song from Volume 2, which is Time to Say Goodbye, receiving 171 votes. This song is the opening theme to Volume 2 and is a pretty impactful song when you take a look at the lyrics. This is the turning point where the main characters are pretty much saying goodbye to their innocence. They are passing the point of no return, where, you can't really go back after being introduced to the evils of the world. They hadn't really been introduced to the evils of the world in Volume 2 itself. That came a little bit later when they found out about Salem, a couple volumes later actually, but once they got more into the criminal underground, Roman Torchwick, Mountain Glen, and all of the things that ended up following after that, this was definitely a point of no return where they had to say goodbye to their innocence and actually started their lives as huntresses a little bit sooner than they may have anticipated. An excellent song, and I'm really happy to see Volume 2 getting some love on this list. But moving on to number 8 on this list, receiving 177 votes, we have a song from Volume 4, the 2nd ranked song actually, Bad Luck Charm. This is Crow's theme song that played when Crow and Tyrion had their fight in Volume 4, and is sung from Crow's perspective, and he does not have a good view of himself, where he definitely thinks he needs to stay away from others because of his semblance, his misfortune, and this song, Bad Luck Charm, is pretty much alluding directly to that, how Crow sees himself as bad luck for everyone around him, that he needs to be on his own, keep away, and that he's a harbinger of misfortune. Everything about Crow screams bad luck, and hopefully that will be turning around for him in Volume 8. I hope to do a more in-depth look into Bad Luck Charm itself, the lyrics, what Crow thinks of himself, and how things might turn around for him later on, but I'm glad to see that this song made the list. A lot of love for Crow, and who knows, maybe someday in the RWBY series he'll get another song that's a little bit more uplifting for him. Maybe not in Volume 8 though, considering where everything's headed. Hopefully he survives a lot longer than Volume 8 and we'll get more songs and focus on him in the future, but we'll have to see at that point. Moving on to number 7 on this list, receiving 180 votes, we have a song all the way back from Volume 1. This Will Be the Day. This was the 2nd ranked song in the Volume 1 music poll and is the opening for Volume 1 as a whole. Probably one of the first songs most of us heard when being introduced to the RWBY series. This is where it all begins. This is where Ruby's journey to become a huntress begins, where she sets out on this journey that will, encompass the perils of the world and eventually what it ended up being with the RWBY series, Salem Everything. This is the day where everything began. An excellent song. I'm really happy to see it make this list, as well as all of the other songs from early volumes of RWBY. So many of these songs carry so much meaning in the words and their lyrics, and it's amazing to see all of the foreshadowing that may have been put in there, or the other meaning that we can derive from them, looking back on them 7 volumes later from their release. Moving on to our 6th place on this list, though, we have one of the more recent additions to the RWBY series. Receiving 196 votes, we have the song War from Volume 7, the second-ranked song in Volume 7. This is the one that played during Episode 12, Team RWBY versus the Aesops. A very iconic fight that is probably going to be remembered for years to come, and the song that accompanied it probably will be as well. This song seeming to be from both of the teams' perspectives, how neither of them are going to back down, how the Aesops are seeming to just follow orders, but they also feel betrayed by Team RWBY, how now they are going against the military, against Ironwood, and are really standing strong in their ideals and not wanting to back down. A little interesting tidbit about this song as well is that the voice actress for Elm Edern is actually one of the singers in this song. So a little added aspect to a song that plays over one of Elm's fights. Unfortunately, she ends up losing that fight, but it's going to be interesting to see if there is any other music that accompanies Volume 8, where we'll see more of the Aesops and other iconic fights that are sure to come. I'm glad to see War make this list as well. Moving on to number 5, though, with a little bit of a jump in the voting, we have, with 243 votes, a song from Volume 1. The third-ranked song, though, the song I May Fall, which beat out the second-ranked song in its individual volume, This Will Be the Day, so interesting to see how that stacks up. But this song played during the end credits of one of the episodes in Volume 1, but people likely know this one better from Velvet's stand at Beacon Academy. When Beacon was falling and the Atlesian Paladins were running rampant, Velvet stood up, used her Anesidora, made the hard like dust weapons, and pretty much bodied at least 1.5 of the Atlesian Paladins before getting knocked back. She had an absolute badass moment. This song accompanied it and embodied that moment perfectly. The lyrics of I May Fall are talking about moments where people might fall in the face of adversity, where the darkness is closing in, where there's an obstacle that just seems insurmountable, but still we stand strong and face it, just like Velvet did in that moment, just like all of the students did at Beacon Academy. This song has a lot of meaning in it for the moments in which it plays during the RWBY series, and I wouldn't be surprised actually if we heard it again in Volume 8 when people are standing strong against Salem, and also that Atlas itself might fall might be a fitting inclusion for Volume 8, but we'll have to wait and see. And now moving on to our 4th place on this list, and the only song from Volume 6 to make this list. The number 1 ranked song in Volume 6, One Thing, receiving 256 votes. This is the song that played during Neo and Cinder's fight, when Neo was reintroduced into the RWBY series. This song being from Neo's perspective, and seems to be about her losing the one thing that was most important to her, that being Roman Torchwick. A very emotional song showing Neo going on essentially a warpath, how she has nothing left and she will get blood for blood, death for death, and will stop at nothing to avenge what she has lost. And we'll see how that plays out in Volume 8, because she still seems to be used by Cinder, and it doesn't really seem to be playing out the way that she wants it to. So we'll see if maybe Neo might get another song in Volume 8, might another competitor for this list perhaps, but again, we'll have to wait and see how things unfold. Before we get to the top 3 songs in the first 7 volumes of the RWBY series, though, let's go over some honorable mentions. The first of which being our 2nd place song from Volume 6. Receiving 165 votes, in 11th place we have the song Nevermoor. This is the closing theme for the entire volume, and is a song about Adam sung from Yang and Blake's perspective, how they will not be held prisoner by Adam any longer, and we saw how everything played out there. A very emotional song with quite a bit of meaning for the characters that it is sung about, so I'm glad to see it make it so high on the list. And then in our 12th place spot, we have yet another song from Volume 6, this time being the 4th ranked song though. Receiving 160 votes, we have the song Indomitable. This song playing when RWBY petrified the Leviathan, when we saw all of the images from the past events in the RWBY series, and that one of Summer Rose. This song carries a lot of meaning behind it, not only for the RWBY series, but to the creator of RWBY as well. Apparently the songwriters had a quote from Monty in mind when they were creating this song. After his mother's passing, Monty made a tweet about the indomitable human spirit, something that fits perfectly for the scene in which this song plays and encompasses Monty himself, and just the RWBY series as a whole. One of the first things we heard in RWBY was that victory lies in a simple soul, an indomitable spirit. This is a song with a lot of meaning behind it, especially once we look into the inspirations that went into it in the first place. But moving on to our 13th spot on this list, receiving 146 votes, we have another song from Volume 7. The 5th ranked song in the Volume 7 music poll, actually, we have Until the End. This is the song that played during Ozpin's speech in the Volume 7 finale. After Ozpin has returned, it seems as though he is promising, in the lyrics of this song, that he will stay until the end. So I don't think we're going to see Ozpin disappear again, at least hopefully not, assuming, of course, Oscar lives through the entirety of Volume 8 and Salem doesn't do any weird magic-y business in there. We'll see what ends up happening, but it seems like Ozpin is going to be here to stay. Though the lyrics of the next song on this list may say something to the contrary. In our 14th spot, receiving 136 votes, we have another song from Volume 7. The 3rd ranked song, actually, that being Fear. This is the ending theme for Volume 7 as a whole, and is actually Oscar's theme song. Not at all foreboding with that being his theme song, but this is a song about, or at least the lyrics are about, who a person will become under the influence of fear, relating right back to Ozpin's speech and how it's affecting Ironwood and how it's affecting everyone in Atlas now that the shadow of Salem looms overhead, and everything moving into Volume 8. I feel like the lyrics might have a pretty good impact on the events that we will see in the coming episodes. And in the last spot of our honorable mentions, in 15th place, receiving 133 votes, we have the 3rd ranked song from Volume 6, the Volume 6 opening, Rising. This is a song about rising in the face of adversity, having a little bit of hope and confidence that RWBY had when she stood up to Salem in Volume 7, but we'll see how things play out in Volume 8. But now we'll move on to the top 3 songs in the first 7 volumes of the RWBY series. In our 3rd place spot is the number 1 song from Volume 4, receiving 274 votes. We have the song This Life Is Mine. This is the song that played during Weiss's little concert that Jacques forced her to put on, and the lyrics of this song carry so much emotion behind them, especially with the scene that it plays and the context of the scene as a whole. You can feel the emotion in Casey Lee Williams' voice when she's singing it, or I guess in the RWBY series, Weiss is singing the song, but the context of it is that Weiss wants to break free from her family. This life is hers. She's going to take it for herself. No longer will she be kept prisoner by her family's name, by her father, who at the time was grooming her to be the next in line to inherit the Schnee name, making sure that she can live up to his ideals and making sure that she acts proper, etc. He is controlling her as much as he possibly can, and she is taking that life back from him. Carries a lot of meaning for essentially what happened in the RWBY series, where, as with Volume 7, she was finally able to stand up to him and essentially throw him behind bars. So we got a win for Weiss in that one. We'll see how things play out in Volume 8, if there will be another confrontation, and also with the other members of the Schnee family. Whitley and Willow still need some screen time, and there's some unresolved issues there, so we'll see how things play out. And then in our 2nd place spot on this list is actually a song from Volume 7, only taking the 2nd place spot by a single vote. With 275 votes, we have the song Hero. This is the song that played over the Ironwood versus Watts fight, and is pretty much from Ironwood's perspective, where he will sacrifice anything, risk everything to move forward, how he is dead set in his ideals, how his steadfast nature, his iron will, his metal, which is his semblance, will continue to push him forward in pursuit of his goals, and he will not back down for anything or anyone or seemingly listen to reason. A little bit of a downside of his semblance there, but an iconic song for an iconic fight, and seemingly one of the favorites overall. But it still does not hold a candle to the #1 song on this list. The #1 song from Volume 1 and the landslide victory in this poll with 370 votes, we have Red Like Roses Part 2, which a lot of people predicted. This song carries a lot of meaning for both the main character of the show, Ruby Rose, as well as her mother, and the RWBY series as a whole. This song seeming to be sung as a duet between Ruby and Summer. Ruby reacting and lamenting over the death of her mother, and Summer lamenting over leaving Ruby behind, the regret of abandoning her daughter for whatever mission it was that she pursued, whatever goal she was going after. Seemingly in Volume 7, now that Salem has said that Summer Rose said those exact same words to her, it seems like Summer may have gone to confront Salem and it didn't work out so well for her. So we'll see how things play out in Volume 8, whether Ruby starts on that same path that Summer did, where she might not be able to achieve victory against Salem, where she suffers a crushing defeat in Volume 8, which certainly seems likely. The meaning behind this song may come to full fruition this volume or the volumes soon to follow, when we find out what actually happened to Summer Rose, the path that she decided to follow instead of staying with Ruby, and everything that is yet to come. A lot of the songs in this poll I've related to the events in Volume 8 and how it could be looking forward and foreshadowing, etc., but there's so much more meaning that can be drawn from each of them. So let me know down in the comments below, what songs are your favorites out of each of these ones? What songs did you think would make this list but didn't? It was quite notable that even in the top 15 songs, no songs from Volume 3 or Volume 5 made it this high. There were a lot of people who did vote for the songs in Volumes 5 and Volumes 3, it's just, I guess they weren't enough to beat out the competition presented by the other volumes. There was still a nice spread in the top 10 out of the volumes that did make it. There were 3 songs from Volume 1, 2 songs each from Volumes 2, 4, and 7, and then 1 song from Volume 6. So, nice little spread there, a lot of songs with a lot of meaning behind them, and, you know, I'm curious to see what other songs are going to come out in Volume 8, and the meaning that can be drawn from them, given the events that are going to transpire. Hopefully we'll get more character-focused songs as well. I would love to see one, perhaps, of the Happy Huntresses, or maybe from Ruby's perspective going up against Salem, learning about what happens to Summer Rose, things like that I'm really looking forward to seeing in Volume 8, and I would love to know what you guys are looking forward to as well. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and are enjoying the various polls. Volume 8 starts tomorrow as of the filming of this video, a lot to look forward to, and at least one more song to be added to the music polls next year with the Volume 8 opening going to be revealed tomorrow. So make sure to subscribe to the channel to keep up with everything going on, the Volume 8 reviews, the theories, the analysis, etc. Join the Guild of the Eternal Flame. Tweet me at Phoenix Knight 7, and I'll see you guys in the next video.